Tim Davis, Rubus Scientific. Thanks for a great talk. I have a question about the cotton sustainability. So obviously, yeah, you're right about the chemicals and things, but presumably organic cotton has lower yield. Otherwise, we'd grow all our cotton that way. So what's the impact of the indirect land use change if the entire industry switches to organic cotton? You know, how much extra land are we going to need to produce cotton?
The majority of the reason that organic cotton has lower yield is that it has crop rotation, so you're growing food in between the cycles of growing cotton. So that's primarily why the yield goes down, is because you're not growing a monocrop, you're doing crop rotation. So it's true that you would have slightly less cotton, but you would be producing food next to it. So if you look at a global scale, that's a good transition in my opinion, truthfully. The interesting thing, though, about the regenerative agriculture that I was speaking about, which is what I think we need to move towards anyway, is that what we've seen using the regenerative agricultural systems, working on the soil health, using compost, letting soil health regrow, is we're seeing a double and tripling of yield per plant. Because healthy soil makes bigger plants. It's just that simple. So we think that a combination of organic with regenerative, you wouldn't actually see any difference in yield, even though you're having slightly less cotton because of crop rotation. If you're increasing the yield of each plant, we think it would even out, actually.
And maybe a quick yes/no. What's Stella McCartney's position on GMO?
Well, with GMO, and it's interesting. I mean, it's not an all or nothing for us. I mean, the spider silk is a GMO. So the micro silk, the spider silk that Bolt's creating is obviously a genetically modified organism, but we are anti-GMO when it comes to seeds. So, I mean, it's an interesting moment, I think, for the fashion industry to wrap its head around the different variations of GMO. But with any GMO, for us, it's about safety, whether it's in a lab. Well, in a lab, it's about safety. So it's about containment and disposal and how things are being managed. And so any partner that we work with that is working with any type of GMO, we are very thorough in checking how they're managing the entire system, their lab safety, everything around it. But within crops, we are within planting systems, with any type of agriculture system, we avoid GMO. But you know, there's a lot of reasons outside of it simply being GMO that we do that. It's about soil health. It's about livelihood for farmers. We've seen horrible poverty cycles due to people being locked into GMO cycles in places like India. So there's a much larger context for the fashion industry, which is why we've moved away from GMO within that space. Yeah.
You talk about sustainability and the impact on agriculture and the farmers. So if someone was to do for cotton what Bolt has done with silk, what do you think your responsibility is to the farmers? Because it's going to have a massive economic impact if suddenly cotton becomes something done in a fermenter rather than in lots of fields.
I mean, I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question with any of these technologies. I think that it's why we want to see governments more involved in this conversation. Because I think that as we recognize our resource scarcity, and especially with cotton, it requires a massive amount of water to grow. We need to think through how we want to balance these things as an industry, as a planet. You know, I think that there is a space for less in general. So, you know, if we're coming in with a technology that is using significantly less of anything, that is a good thing. Less water, less energy. But there is a responsibility to the people that we work with. But that's why, for us, we are trying to get back to the farm, to actually get to know the people and help transition those systems towards systems that are sustainable. Because while it will be incredible that we start to disrupt things, we also know these technologies are a long way off, and that we have until 2030 to address the very serious issues we're facing around climate change. So I don't foresee that any technology will come in and replace any fiber completely between now and 2030. Which is, again, why we're so focused on these farm-level solutions and farm-level changes.